I know what my passion is. I know what my mission is. And, we're getting older every day, and I'm just here to create legacy and impact, to create positivity to my community and eventually my world. And I like-minded people who are in that situation, because I've seen so many of us are there. And it's collaboration over competition, because
I
there's
agree.
7 billion people,
I'm
7 billion.
with you.
Yeah. So I was like, no, we're not doing competing. If you think that I'm competing with you, we're not going to get there. We're just
No.
collaborating right now. And I love to have people on my platform, because I said, guys, how many of you right now that wants PR for free? Most PR people will charge you minimum $350 up to $1,200. I've been asked already. And it was this lady, and I felt, at first, I think my feeling was hurt, but then the next emotions I got my emotional intelligence kicked in, and I said, she just doesn't know what she doesn't know, right? I mean, she literally approached me. She's like, oh, would you like to be on my YouTube and, get you interview in my magazine? I said, sure, why not? And then she slapped me with, oh, it's going to be $1,200. I was like, okay, what is the benefits of, doing that? And she said, you'll be on my YouTube, and I have like 700 subscribers. That's what she said. And then her magazine, I think, is like 100 people right now or something like that. But, she pushes it in. And I said, okay, that's good. And, but I said, no, thank you for now. And she hung up on me, Marlene. And I said, I think we got disconnected.
See, then you tried to do the most, you see how pleasant you were with that. Very, very pleasant. And I'm going, and basically, like I said, I feel as if you'll be talking to me today anyway, letting me know everything about you, because I'm telling you, I've been hanging out with you already today. But I'm just going to go ahead. That's right. I'm getting started. Hello, everybody. I'm Marlene Foster with Empower the Vision. And today's spotlight guest, Dr. Constance LEYLAND, and we call her CJ. And CJ is an international publisher, podcast host. She does one thing that I truly love, and that's education. I love being educated, and I love to educate others. And so I'm really looking forward to learning so much about you today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, maybe if she wants to talk about, her books that she's published, and if she wants to specialize maybe in one of them. But welcome, CJ. I'm really happy to have you here with us today. But just start telling us a little bit about your background, and then go on into your passion, which I already know.
I don't know where to start. So background in terms of education first, I'm going to go backwards. So 4 degrees. One is doctorate in international business. I recently got my master's in science for cybersecurity and counterterrorism. And then I have an MBA for organizational leadership. I have a bachelor's and double major actually for computer software programming, but I didn't get that 3 classes away because it was like too much going on lab. But I have a bachelor's in communications, specializing in journalism and writing, because I have a passion for journalism. I was an editor and public speaker since I was in high school, really. But I've been an educator for about 10 years in higher ed and 3.5 years in K-12. So my youngest students is 4. My oldest students is 78 years old. And I have a lot of medical doctors. I was surprised actually taking the MBA. And I asked them, like, why are you here? You're accomplished. They're like, well, I need to open up a hospital. I'm like, you don't need an MBA to open up a hospital. You're like, well, I kind of need to know, I'm the hands-on type of guy that I need to know, all the business sides. I said, well, what you learn in most classes, not in mine, but most classes you learn theory. What I specializes in is I take the theory, because even though I'm an educator, I do part-time. I used to do part-time before COVID and education at night, but I usually have 2 to 3 jobs full-time at the same time. So that's why I can talk about leadership. I've been a leader for 25 years, having from age 22, doing at Geico about 100 people when I was 22. And I know what I was doing. Thank God they know what to do with me, and trained me through Warren Buffett. And I met him. He's a really kind man. And that's funny that you said about my book, because my second book that I finished last year was called Thought Leadership. I created a summit as a dean. I was a dean at 3 different universities, and I created a summit for my team to talk about different kinds of aspects in education, like how to publish a book. That's important when you're an educator. How to basically do, teach your class where they have transferable skills, because a lot of PhDs, and that's why I ask people, I'm like, do you know the difference between a PhD and a DBA? They're like, what's a DBA? Doing business as? I was like, no, I wish it was. Or database administrator. I said, no. DBA stands for Doctor in Business Administration. And basically what the difference is that PhD usually will do a lot of theory. You look at secondary reports, you look at theory, and then DBA is we look at theory and then we test that theory to see if it works. I'm a kinesthetic learner. That means I'm hands-on. Tell me what you want. I'm going to test it. I'm going to go out and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, I'll give you feedback of why I think it doesn't work. And that's what my degree is all about. So if you're a kinesthetic learner like me, going back to school, DBA is the way to go for sure.
Wow. See that, you know what, when I saw that you were really passionate about education, I mean, that just said, I said, I love it. I love that stuff, because you're right. And I taught middle school. And then I've also taught, through business. I've done workshops like you have. And you're right. And when you can get people interactive and involved, tell them maybe a story and then let them turn around and actually relate collaboratively in groups, they get so excited. I mean, there's excitement there, as opposed to just, like you said, just sitting there and listening to you lecture for, hour after hour, like we do in college. You have to listen to those colleges that do that. And I wanted to ask you, the Level Up Academy. Could you tell us more about Level Up? The Level Up,
I would love to. So I started my podcast because as a dean, I had problems communicating between my student and my faculty. And I'm like, why am I bleeding? Like, my goal is retention, right? And I can't retain. I'm like, what is the problem here? And in order for me to have better communication where people are more calm because they're passionate about telling me why they can't do things. And I'm like, no, not yet is a key word. It's not like I can't do it. No, you can. It's just not yet. Okay, let's get to this positive mindset. So because of that, I started my podcast. And when my podcast started, I got so many feedback from my students and said, Dr. Leland, you should create a company where you have your creativity, your experience taken from this classroom, and you have full control of what you want to do. And I was like, I already teach business plan class and I've already teach entrepreneurs. Why not? So I opened Level Up Academy because I want to marry theory and practice. So I take my leadership skills of 25 years, and then I take my being a dean at university, creating curriculum and, instructional development, and create my own course. The first course I did actually is called Managing Your Boss. It's a 1-month course. It is intense weekly. We have a Zoom weekly, and it just focuses on 4 elements, one of each, which is creative thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence, and communication.